Today is a really special day in so many ways. One is, I want to just say once what everybody else already just kind of said a minute ago, how awesome it was to see 9 lives, 9 individuals, 9 people make decisions. If you're part of their family, the friends, the people that are here to support you, so glad you're here today to be a part of this. This is really an amazing day. It's different in the fact that my sermon today is going to be kind of broken up into parts because we're celebrating the Lord's Supper today as well as celebrating baptism. And hopefully you got a chance to grab one of these when you came in. I want to explain to you the significance, the meaning of it, especially for the benefit of those who don't know, but then also for all of us who are Christians, maybe celebrated it many times, to understand what this is really supposed to be about. I've been gone the last 2 weeks, so if I sound a little like maybe I've been in an airplane up until yesterday morning at about 2 in the morning, it's because I was. We flew back. My wife and I were on sabbatical. We got to go to Greece, and we flew back from Athens to New York, which is about 11 hours in an airplane. It's a long time to be in an airplane. And we landed in New York, and Delta was so excited for us to get to New York that they delayed our next flight for 6 hours. And so we flew into Dallas-Fort Worth at 2 o'clock in the morning. I want to tell you what, there is not much going on at DFW at 2 in the morning that's good. You know what I mean? It's kind of a scary place. And but we got home, got some sleep, and here I am today. You know, I'm a little jet lagged. It kind of reminds me of that preacher who said one time he had a dream that he fell asleep while he was preaching, and when he woke up, he was. So my hope today is I don't fall asleep, you don't fall asleep, but the good news is this is going to be a sermonette, followed by a sermonette, followed by a sermonette, as we walk through this time of worship together. Hopefully, as I said, you grab one of these, the bread and the juice, the bread and the, it's not wine, at least it wasn't in the first service, but the significance of this is that the Christians have participated in this for 2,000 years. Some Christian churches call this communion. Some call it Lord's Supper. There's different names for it. Some even call it Eucharist, which comes from a word that's actually found in the passage that I'm going to read to you from in 1 Corinthians. In fact, we wouldn't even know that much about Lord's Supper if it hadn't have been for what Paul wrote to the Corinthian church. Now, if you don't know anything about it, Corinth was a Greek city. It was just not far from where I was just at in Greece. I was in Athens. It was just down the road. When I was in Athens just a couple days ago, we got to do a tour of Athens. We were only there 2 days, and we timed it perfectly, by the way, because it was the warmest climatological weather temperature they had in recorded history. So we got there for the hottest day ever. It's always good to set a record, you know. The next day, the weather was great, and we had a wonderful guide. It was a wonderful Greek Orthodox Christian man, and it was fantastic. He's an archaeologist and a biblical scholar, just really knew his Bible and his history well. And we walked through from the Acropolis, that ancient, mountain there in Athens that has the Parthenon and all those different temples. And we went down from there into the Agora, the ancient marketplace where Paul had walked. And you'll remember from the book of Acts, if you've ever read the story, that Paul's walking along and he's seeing all these different altars to different gods that the Greeks worship. And he came to one where there was nothing but just an inscription that said, "To the unknown God." Like they built a place to worship just in case we missed one of them. And literally they did that. And Paul gets taken up on Mars Hill, and it was incredible. We got to walk up on Mars Hill. Kristen and I were up there, and as the guide was walking us up there, the inscription from the book of Acts is written there in Greek, and he just started reading it spontaneously in Greek, and I started trying to translate some of the words, and I didn't do that great of a job, honestly. So Kristen sat down there on Mars Hill, and she just read the story. And as she read and reflected, later that night I asked her, I said, what really struck you about being there at Mars Hill, where Paul gives that famous sermon? Remember when he talks to this audience of people who are not Christians, and he has to explain to them the gospel, who Jesus is, and they don't even know what the Bible is. And he says to them, "Hey, I was walking around in the marketplace, and I noticed your inscription to an unknown God. And the God you don't know about, let me tell you about him. He is the God that doesn't live in temples built by human hands. He is the creator of everything. And what Kristen told me was, she said that verse, when it says the temple, that the God that we serve is not built, doesn't live in a temple built by human hands.